welcome everybody to another Matless Gang Hang. I'm the Internet's Joe Patrick. With me, as per usual, is our round table of esteemed nerds. We got Frank, we've got Dave, we've got Mike, we've got Ian, we got Jim, we got Joe, we got Damon, we got Zach, and then that's me. I kept going like there was another person, but that's just my face right there. Guys, welcome. We're damn glad to have you. I don't know that we have a whole ton to talk about. At least nothing planned. We hit the Peacemaker finale pretty hard last week. We can talk about that if there are any lingering thoughts. Some big stuff going on in comics. This week, the Age of Revelation started in the pages of the X books, and the tie-ins are already 9 deep.
Yeah,
and Matt and I just got done recording our Patreon extra for this week, where we talked about all 9 of them that are so far released, which means we both read all of them. So you don't have to.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, you know. My pleasure. What's going on with you guys? What have you been reading? What have you been watching? I know that it's October, and we made promises that we were going to talk about horror stuff this week, and I'm totally happy to do that. If anybody has some thoughts to kick off, I will say... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I started reading Judgment Day from Archie Comics.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. I like the Archie horror comics. I think it's a nice departure from like the wholesome comedy, and it's like wholesome, not so wholesome horror, you know. And
right, because they don't you know, it's not all ages stuff, that horror book. Those horror books.
Right. Yeah. And then there was like the Last Days of H.P. Lovecraft. I started reading that.
That's a comic, right?
I said, yeah, it's a comic. And where did it go? I thought I had it on the table with me here. Anyway, yeah, it's called The Last Days of H.P. Lovecraft. And apparently it's very, I got like 3 pages into it, and then I had to go do something else because children.
Sure.
But, you know, but that's what I'm reading. And I watched last night, my kids and I watched 1931 Dracula.
Oh, that's a classic.
They both enjoyed it.
Yeah, with why is it his name?
Bela Lugosi.
There you go, that guy. Yes.
Yeah, Bela Lugosi. Which they both liked. My son, who's almost 9, just kept cracking sarcastic jokes. And my daughter, who's almost 13, she really liked it a lot. She thought it was really good. It's a little, I mean, for a movie that's an hour and 15 minutes long, it's slow. There's absolutely no soundtrack to it, except for a bit of Swan Lake at the beginning, and that's it. But Renfield, the guy playing Renfield, just chews the scenery. It's so good. He's so good.
I really love that movie in a really long time.
What I really love about all of those old Universal Monster movies is that like you can see that they are like the bridge between theater and filmmaking, because now theater and film acting are like super separate, and they're their own forms of acting and their own forms of art and everything. But like at this point, movies were so new that like they were like, well, let's just do a play and film it. And I really dig seeing that like transition period as like a piece of history.
And you know something, like
actually,
even
that's a really great point.
With those movies too, they were experimenting so much, even like special effects and makeup and things like that. That kind of laid the groundwork for like, you know, those type of genre film forever. Actually, like Frankenstein and all those movies too. There was a lot of like heavy makeup that, you know, I guess not saying it was uncommon, but I guess for something like that, you know, it kind of gave the blueprint for how to do those type of movies, like from a practical standpoint.
Yeah, there really is like a sense of play and discovery in them, which like you kind of have to have when you're figuring new forms of art out, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never really thought of it in those terms, Zach, but you're absolutely right. Like when these these Universal movies were made, cinema was barely 2 decades old. The idea of movies at all, like certainly movies with sound, and dialogue, and so they are basically filmed stage plays in a lot of cases. And I think when you look at them through that lens, it kind of adds an interesting layer to them. And yeah, I also agree that with what Damon said about the makeup effects, like Lon Chaney Jr. played the Phantom of the Opera. He also play the Wolfman?
I think so.
I might be wrong about that.
But Lon Chaney played the Phantom of the Opera. Lon Chaney Jr. was the Wolfman.
Oh, well, there you go. Sorry.
It's in the line.
Yeah,
it's the
Lon
lineage.
Chaney, he was the genius. He was this makeup genius, and he did not.
Was known as the Man of 1,000 Faces. Like he was, like he had that nickname, and the way he transforms, he kind of disappears into that phantom character. It's like impressive for practical makeup effects from nearly a century ago.
Almost. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my daughter was saying, in 6 years, this movie is going to be 100 years old. I said, it's mind blowing, that we're at that point where these classic old movies are now almost 100 years old, and we're looking at them again with we're so used to these quick cuts and quick edits and things being tons of action, but you watch Dracula, you watch Frankenstein, and because the pace is so different, it can feel like it's a longer movie than it is, and they're really only like an hour and a half to an hour and 15 minutes. Such great stuff.
And that in itself is a lost art. The ability to make a movie and get it done before your bladder explodes.
Right. Well, actually, can we? I want to just talk about one thing that I started this stupid discussion about Highlander, and everybody kept jumping in, which is great. I loved it. I was just saying, hey, I listened to these Highlander songs, on my way to work, and everyone was jumping in on it. And I was like, wow, this is really, I didn't realize how much people really enjoyed the series. I couldn't watch the series. I said, why? I just couldn't.
I grew up on that. It was good. It was fun for what it was. It wasn't good. I couldn't say that. For what it was.
I had a friend of mine who absolutely loved the series, and I think one of the reasons he loved the series is because he was a stuntman and for a little while, and he worked acting jobs and stuntman jobs, and he met Adrian Paul on a couple of occasions and worked with him a couple of times, and he said that he's just such a wonderful person, such a really kind human being, and he actually gave him one of his hair ties from Highlander, because as sort of a thank you for doing work with him, and he used to wear it, and he's like, yeah, I got this from Adrian Paul, and I think that's why my friend really kind of got into it, because he worked with him. But I had a hard time with the show for a couple of reasons, and it kept me from getting into it. And it was really just because, why did they have to make him his cousin? Why did they have to make him give him the same sort of backstory, sword, and all that stuff? Make him Connor McLeod, or make him something totally different and come up with something new. I would have bought that, but I also had a problem with Buffy the Vampire Slayer because it wasn't portrayed as a comedy like the original movie was. So I was a little. Back in my youth, I was a little more judgmental, so to speak, about movies and stuff. But then I started thinking about Highlander gets 5 movies and a TV series, but the classically underrated Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension gets 1 film And that should have been the freaking Justice League of its time. Okay. That was like an incredible movie, and it never got a sequel. It never even got. I don't think it even got like like
they
made
even
for
teased
TV or
they even
direct to
teased the
video.
sequel.
They did.
Yes.
Actually. Yeah, a few times.
Was there a comic book for that?
There was
I
a
wanna say
comic
there
book.
was.
There was a comic book sequel. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could have sworn I remember a comic book, but yeah.
Yep.
Like, what a missed opportunity that was. You had Clancy Brown, Jeff Goldblum, Peter Weller.
Lithgow
John
was in it,
Lithgow was
too.
in it, but I think but you don't. I don't think you get him in subsequent movies and
No.
stuff if they did that. But you had all of these guys, these up and coming actors that were phenomenal, and like, but if there was more of those movies, does Jeff Goldblum not do The Fly? Does Clancy Brown not do The Kurgan?
Right. Like somewhere out there, like there's an episode of Sliders, where Jerry O'Connell and Gimli go to the world where Buckaroo Banzai was like a huge franchise. And there's no Fly, there's no RoboCop, there's
right.
And but yeah, you know what? I confess, I've never seen Buckaroo Banzai.
Man!
I know it's a blind spot for me. I need to make a point out of watching it because I know that I would love it.
Yeah,
you would. It is one of my favorite movies. It's really underrated because it got panned by the critics, but it's such a fun movie. There's just themes in it. It is ultimately one of the most quotable movies aside from Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Sure.
But it is, hold on a second. My daughter is now watching. They followed me into another room. And now I'm like, gotta be kidding me with this. I'm going to a new room.
I think the sequel that they tease at the end of the first film is like, Buckaroo Banzai will return in like Buckaroo Banzai versus the World Crime League or something like that. Is that right?
Right.
And it's a shame that never happened because, that would be fun to see more movies like that, more like goofy adventure, almost superhero movies before the advent of the superhero movie, really.
Exactly. That's why I say it's like it could have been the Justice League of its time. It was so good, man. You got to see it. It's definitely worth your time, and it's not that long. It's like it really is like maybe an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes long.
I used to rent that from the video store all the while back in the day.
I love it.
Oh, that's like Highlander. It's like the movie, the original Highlander movie. My friends and I would rent it, and then when we couldn't rent, when it finally premiered on HBO, like I think we all taped it at like whatever it was, 2:00 in the morning when it was on. And we watched it over and over and over and over again to a point where when one person's tape broke, somebody else had a tape of it. It was like, what do you call it? Heavy metal. Heavy metal was another one that you couldn't.
I had
You couldn't rent heavy metal.
Yeah,
it was so hard to get it on VHS.
Yeah, when you had the double-headed VHS, like Heavy Metal, Ghostbusters. That's what I used to bootleg back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah,
that was back. That was back when VHS tape. They used to try to tell you that VHS tapes were VHS movies, not just cassettes. They tried to convince people that VHS movies were worth like $100, or it's like if you screwed up your copy of 9.5 Weeks that you got from the video store and you watched it a little too intently. And you broke your copy, and you tried to go back to the video store. They're like, "Well, that's $89.99." It's like when George Costanza had to go to the video store and pay for a copy of Rochelle that he couldn't return. And they're like, "Well, shit, it's $99, sir. I'm sorry." A young girl's erotic journey from Milan to Minsk. Yeah. But yeah, I always think it's fun to hear people talk about the movies that were formative to them And like, so like mine were a little bit like askew off to the side. And so for me, it was stuff like, not that it was anything like weird, but it was like Flight of the Navigator,
Oh, that was good.
The Explorers that starred Ethan Hawke and River
Oh,
Phoenix.
yeah, those are,
Like
yeah.
these are the movies that like for me were the ones that I watched endlessly. And then I did have Highlander. But then I missed some like Flash Gordon and Buckaroo Banzai. Like even RoboCop I did not see until I was an adult.
Oh, you could have been doing it. I assure you. Although we all did, most of us did. Yeah, it was ultra violent, but it was so good. But yeah.
So
Navigator was good though. That was Paul Rubin, right? As the voice of the ship pilot or whatever.
Flight of the Navigator, yeah. Paul Rubens
was
the ship, or I guess not the ship, but like the weird alien in the ship.
Yeah, they kind of piloted that thing. Really.
Yeah.
He was the computer voice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just watched something about it because my wife has a soft spot for that movie too, and she's like, she wants to get the kids to watch it.
And Flight of the Navigator. Is the movie that introduced me to Twisted Sister, because when he wakes up in the 80s and Sarah Jessica Parker is talking to him, and she's watching this music video and he's like, what the fuck is this? Because this kid comes from the time when the Doobie Brothers were the big thing on the radio. And she's like, yeah, it's Twisted Sister. And for some reason that stuck in my head to this day. It's like, oh yeah, Twisted Sister.
I feel like they covered hair, and he was just like, what is that in your hair? It's just like
yeah. So I have been unfortunately sort of lax in my horror, in my enjoyment of horror stuff for the season. But I did read the final issue of Philip Kennedy Johnson's Incredible Hulk, which came out this week or last week. And it sets the stage for the next volume, which is called The Infernal Hulk. Let me tell you guys, that book is something else.
I just picked it up. I didn't read it.
It's really incredible. It's such a phenomenal book. And it's gross and it's creepy and it's scary, and it is really probably one of the greatest horror comics on the stands right now.
You know what it's funny with like the Hulk, how he's all of a sudden become this horror icon because of his latest runs in like the Immortal Hulk. It's kind of crazy, actually.
Yeah. And it's interesting because Immortal Hulk was all like psychological, right? It was psychological horror. There was some body horror stuff. Incredible Hulk, this volume of Incredible Hulk is just a straight up monster fest. And it's big, disgusting, gross monsters, which is what you want when you're talking about, the Hulk as a main character. You want that guy to be fighting other monsters. And it's really, really well done. I highly, highly recommend it. It leaves... I don't want to spoil anything, but Incredible Hulk number 30 ends on a very terrifying note. And the Marvel universe is screwed. Or so it seems. And so I'm very eager to see how they pick up on it in the next volume, and how the other characters of the Marvel universe react to what happened. And it's good stuff.
I haven't read it yet. But I'll be honest, I've been reading the Hulk for 45 years, almost 50 years of my life. And I have seen every single iteration of the Hulk over those years.
Yeah.
And I didn't think they were going to be able to like tell us a new Hulk story. And when I started reading, like when I heard the Hulk, they were starting Hulk back at number 1, and I saw like long-haired Hulk. I'm like, oh, what is this nonsense? you know. And because I
Mhm.
was like immediately just it did not. I was like, what is this? Why are they making the Hulk look like he's got like a hippie or like a long hair? Oh no, I sound like an old man right now. This is old man Frank coming out. But as I started I read that first issue and it immediately drew me in. And as I started following each subsequent issue, I was like, this is, first of all, it's completely different from any other Hulk story I've read. The only thing similar was when Hulk was at the crossroads, when Doctor Strange sent them to that
Right,
interdimensional
yeah,
crossroads.
right around
And
Incredible Hulk 300.
right. And the shift in, and what was the thing about at that point, which I find as happening with this Hulk, is the shift in the art. Now you still had Sal Buscema doing the pencils, but then you get Jerry Talawak on inks, and his inking was a complete overhaul of what they had been doing with the Hulk.
Sure,
And they
right.
made the Hulk more like kind of like creepier looking, which I thought was great, you know?
Yeah.
And then this Hulk, there's something about the way this Hulk, the way they're drawing this Hulk with the kind of the shorter legs and the massive upper body and upper torso is just
Right.
it really gives him that like a very monstrous look, which I think is again fantastic.
Yeah.
And it just like
Because
blown me away with it.
The proportions of the Hulk should be impossible, right? They you should look at the Hulk and be like, ugh, something's not right. You know,
Right.
that's not how the human body works. And and I think they did a good job illustrating that he is truly kind of monstrous. But what you said about how that they did that art shift to make that kind of subtle change back in the 80s. In the 90s, Sal was still drawing Spider-Man. And for a time, during, of all things, the Clone Saga, Sal's pencils were being inked by Bill Sienkiewicz.
Oh my God.
And so if you want to take art that looks one way 99% of the time and make it like give it a completely different look, first of all, and tone, second of all, you put Bill in the mix. And those issues look incredible. I mean, they're not really anything to write home about because it's during the Clone Saga, unfortunately. But it's like, why is Bill Sienkiewicz inking this comic book? I don't understand. But yeah, good stuff. All right. So what other
like
spooky stuff
Moonlight.
you guys got going on this month so far?
Let's see. Yeah, go ahead, Frank. I was going to. I have a mind much more.
No, I was like, I have.
Yeah.
I have no aside from arguing with my son about being either Freddy Krueger or a zombie. He wants to be Freddy Krueger. I'm like, no, you're not being Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, that's probably
that's the only scary spooky thing I have going on.
It's spooky in a different way.
This is not actually.
Go ahead.
I don't think it's spooky, but I am planning to watch the Toxic Avenger, the new one that just came out.
Oh yeah, right.
And yeah, it looks so fun and gross and disgusting as a trauma film should. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Last night I watched Together, the Alison Brie and Dave Franco movie.
Oh, right.
And a couple nights ago I watched The Substance. And so both of those are like pretty body horror-y. And while I was watching them the whole time, I was just like, this is so inspired by manga. And like, I think it's really interesting how like all modern body horror movies, like it just seems like whether the creators realize it or not, it's so based off of like Junji Ito manga shit. And I actually that leads me to a question that I have for you guys in general about film and comic books of like, whenever I find that I'm watching a movie that I really dig and feels like an actual like piece of art and not just a movie made, the first thing that I find myself thinking is, man, this feels like an indie comic. And like, I'm not sure what that is or what vibe it is, but whenever I'm watching something that's really its own thing and is cool, it feels like some creator-owned indie comic that's really good. And I don't know, I want to know if you guys share that feeling or understand what that is. Yeah.
I totally understand. I typically have a reverse reaction where I read a comic and I think I can totally see this being, like an A24 film or a Guillermo del Toro monster movie. I do it. I approach it from a different perspective, but I totally get it. Where I can see that story lending itself very well to another medium completely. There's something to be said for a world where we can get an Eternals movie such as it was, or the Guardians of the Galaxy. Some of these things are more successful than others, but if you had asked any of us in the 90s if we thought that the MCU would ever be a thing, we would say no. And so, it's there's good and there's bad, but overall, I'm glad it exists. But it does make me kind of sad that we're not seeing more chances being taken on comic properties like when they adapted A History of Violence into a movie, or they're making there's an opera about Cavalier and Clay, who are the characters in a book called The Basic Adventures of Cavalier and Clay by Michael Chabon, which is essentially a fictionalized version of Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster creating Superman. And so it's this very meta opera about these guys and their character that they created called The Escapist. I want to see stuff like that. Like the American Splendor. They made Harvey P. Carr's American Splendor into a movie starring Paul Giamatti. It's amazing. Ghost World, that kind of thing. These all came from comics. And
Men in Black.
Men in Black was a comic, yeah. And speaking of horror, I guess I did read High Strangeness. Speaking of,
I really want to see that now.
We'll pivot to that. But yeah, I wish and so in this age of the superhero blockbuster, I kind of wish we were we seem to have lost those smaller movies, those movies based on unlikely properties. And but I think that's an interesting way to look at things, Zach. I don't normally watch something and think about how it's going to be as a comic book, but I totally understand that impulse for sure.
And I don't necessarily think of how it would be as a comic book. I get the vibe of it feels like the feeling of when I'm consuming a comic, because I think that indie comics are so good at storytelling of every panel that, I mean, the best ones, every panel that you have is a part of the story, serves a function in the story. And I think that it lends so well to actors doing their thing too, because you have these still shots a lot of the time. And I think that's super interesting. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you probably approach things a little bit differently because aren't you an actor?
Yes. Yeah.
So, your perspective is a little bit unique in that regard, and but I think that's very cool. But yeah, I always think I'll read an indie comic. We say it all the time on the show. Matt and I will review the first issue of something, and we'll say something like, "I can just imagine in my head the gritty FX weekly drama." That would come out of this comic book, that would come out of a Chris Condon comic,
and funny enough, I think that
Blood or something as a weekly,
Yeah, and funny enough, I do think that when that feeling happens, sometimes it happens in a good way, which is where, because I have a problem with things being made for a media that they're not meant for. Like, one of the reasons that I love Saga is because it's such a, like, it's supposed to be told in the medium of comic books. And so sometimes I do get frustrated with like a Brian Hitch feel where you're like, all right, you're just trying to make this a movie. So I like when things feel like comics and are supposed to be comics, but sometimes they go so heavily into this could only be done as a comic that then you're like, oh, but this is just great storytelling. So it could be told as in a movie.
Right,
format.
Yeah. So I want to talk about High Strangeness for a minute. I want to give a recommendation for those of you that haven't listened to the show yet from this week. High Strangeness is a comic that came out from Oni Press. It's written by Chris Condon. This issue is written by Chris Condon. The art is by Dave Chisholm, who is an artist that we had never really heard of before. And it's essentially about... I made a joke about like... about it being like a Time Life book, but then Matt made fun of me for my old man reference. Frank and John, you guys probably understand what I'm talking about when I bring up the Time Life books.
Yep.
Even you might. And but in the 70s and 80s, there was this series of books that you could mail away for, and it was all like Mysteries of the Unexplained. And it was just like this series a series of books written by this company or put out by this company, and they were just like super cheesy late night infomercials that you would see and order these books. High Strangeness, it takes kind of the culture of I don't know. I'm gonna butcher the terminology here because I'm not super plugged into it, but there's a culture of, you know, people that are like, they talk about unexplained phenomena, you know, ghost sightings, UFOs.
Like
there's podcasts about it, kind of like Lone Gunman, yeah, a little bit. And the Men in Black, not the Marvel, not the Hollywood Men in Black, but there's this concept of Men in Black that has been prevalent in these stories of weird unexplained phenomena for years and years and years, like way before the comic. And I didn't really know that. And that's what this comic is about, is it's an anthology. So each issue is going to be different. Like the next one's about a Sasquatch, I think. But this one was about UFO sightings. And
sounds fun.
It is, you know, and I was poking fun at it in a good natured way. But like the idea, like the guy that co-writes it, that co-founded Spectre Vision with Elijah Wood, who puts out these horror movies, claims to be a real life experiencer of unexplained phenomenon. It's like I roll my eyes at that kind of stuff because I'm kind of cynical, and I don't mean to be, but I cannot deny that I read that comic book and it knocked my socks off.
Did you read the backup yet, Joe?
I didn't read the backup yet because, you know, I was pressed for time getting ready for the show. But Matt read it and he raved about it. This guy Jim Perry,
I thought the backup was actually more compelling than the book. It made me want to go back and read it because it like explained the phenomena so well. It wasn't just like, guys, I promise that I've seen this. I swear to God, it was crazy. It was like explaining this idea of high strangeness.
Right.
It was
high strangeness is a term that the community uses to explain like things that are beyond the realm of explanation.
Yeah, and so whether you believe it or not, that's all kind of part of it, because that's the whole point, is even the people that have experienced crazy things don't really understand it. And so like it's like if you're cynical about that kind of thing, it is really interesting to just be like, fuck, like even if it's not aliens or whatever, there are people who genuinely believe this, and that's fascinating either way. And it just kind of delves into the human psyche in general, which is super. It was super fascinating. It made me get on board with this series.
I'll read it. Yeah, I'll definitely go back and read it. But the comic itself is done so well, and it's the premise is there's this writer who is based off of a real guy, the guy who wrote the Mothman prophecies. And so this journalist has been assigned this story that he thinks is bullshit, but his editors are like, look, man, the last time you almost won an award was a decade ago, and you need this, and this is what people are interested in. So go write about this fucking UFO, whether you want to or not. And so he approaches it from the angle that this girl faked a UFO sighting. And then these men in black get involved. And I'm not going to spoil it beyond that because there are more layers to the story. But it is so gripping. And the art is amazing. This guy, Dave Chisholm, he did a book in the past called Fever Dream. I've never heard of it. And so it's like he came out of nowhere. And I highly, highly recommend it. Even just as a spooky, it's almost a ghost story. Where there's just this weird shit going on, and you can't explain it, and all of a sudden, I swung a bat, and then I woke up on the floor, and my girlfriend was gone. And it's just like, oh my god, like deep level conspiracy shit. And it's fantastic. High Strangeness #1 from Oni Press. I wish that Chris Condon was writing all of them, but he's not. Zach Thompson is writing the next issue. Zach Thompson is a writer I'm familiar with. He's good as well. But Chris Condon really killed it with this one.
Yeah, definitely picking that one up.
Yep.
Anyone ever listen to the Art Bell show back in the
Coast to Coast, Art Bell?
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that reminds me of.
Yeah. So Dave in the chat asks, do we know if High Strangeness will be a single narrative or connecting stories? It says that they are interconnected, but the stories do seem to be like issue #2 is about a guy trying to find a Sasquatch or something like that. And so it's a completely different sort of weird thing, but they are saying that all of the issues are interconnected in some way. And so I don't know if that's through the Men in Black or what, but it seems like the Men in Black seem like a good through line to connect all these weird ideas.
Yeah, I remember after watching the movie, I actually did some research about what actually was the Men in Black, and then based on your description and review with the weird inhuman movements they make, and basically they may not be human at all. Actually,
and that was one of the things that I raved about when we did the review this week was when you see the Men in Black moving and talking in this comic, it can be difficult to convey. People just standing in a weird way, or whatever, or moving their arm and pointing in a weird way. But the way Dave Chisholm illustrates the way the Men in Black move, it's like they are not right. There's something not right about the Men in Black, and it's so well done. Yeah, I can't praise it enough.
I also liked how the writer Chris Condon did he wrote it almost like Jack Kirby writes things. Like the editor of the newspaper is like, I can't remember what he's like, get out of here. These chums are doing this kind of thing. And when people used to write accents,
Right. But yeah, so as far as spooky stuff, that's all I got. Has anyone else delved into anything horror movies that you're recommending this year?
I've been reading
No, go ahead, Zach.
I've been reading Outcast, which I talked a little bit about in the Discord. It's awesome. It's Robert Kirkman. I can't remember who does the art, but it's fantastic, cool, kind of sketchy stuff. And at first you kind of think that it's just going to be classic Conjuring superhero. Jesus is the savior. And then you find out that they start doing it as like a detective book, because it's like this guy who's been possessed and he's like doing a buddy cop thing with this priest, and the priest is like trying to exorcise all these demons, and so he's like putting holy water and reading from the Bible, and then they start doing more experiments, and he's like, I don't want the Bible to get in the way of this. We need to be detectives right now. So he just uses regular water, and that hurts the demons too, and he like reads from a telephone book, and like that hurts the demons too. So you learn that it's this thing that's like outside of all of that. So if you like possession and demon stuff, you'll really dig this, because it's not just like at the end of the Christmas Smiling Friends episode when it's like, yep, hell exists and Christianity was right.
You're right. They made a show of Robert Kirkman's Outcast. I don't know if anybody knows
seriously?
that or watched it.
Yeah, sweet.
Yes, it didn't last long at all.
No,
But they made a TV adaptation of Outcast, and it's out there somewhere for enterprising people that know how to find these things. I never actually saw the show, but it's got a familiar actor in it. I think, was it the kid from Almost Famous?
Oh,
Who's
yeah.
Obviously grown up now, but
and it's a quick read too. It really it flies by. One of my favorite things is when comic books really use the art to tell the story, and it really does that.
Yeah.
So you'll get halfway through the compendium in a couple days.
Oh, you know what? 20 episodes. That's not nothing. But yeah, Patrick Fugit, who you might remember as the lead kid from Almost Famous, who is a grown ass man now. He played the main character in the Outcast TV show. And it was on like FX or it was on some deep cable network. Or maybe not even regular FX, maybe FXX. Back when it had its own second channel, but so I'll check that out on your recommendation. I remember when it came out, we just never really got into it. I think maybe we reviewed the first issue on the show, but it was so long ago, it's hard to tell.
One more thing, and then I promise I'll stop talking.
You're good, man.
Oh.
Go ahead.
I've been watching just like a bunch of horror movies, which I've never really done in my life, but my girlfriend and I have just gotten really into them. And like the big draw that I'm really having towards horror lately, whether it's comic books or movies or anything, is really seeing that horror is the best way to use art to deal with trauma of any sort, whether it's like I am diagnosed with some pretty severe OCD, and like all of like the demonic possession stuff and all of that, it's all like dealing with like what it actually feels like to like have a mental illness like that, or to have like PTSD or any sort of trauma. And so like I've really been seeing horror not as just like, ooh, I want to get spooked, but as like this like cathartic experience, and this like way to process trauma. And like horror is just such a good conduit for empathy, actually.
I totally agree. Like Sinners, that came out earlier this year. Probably not just the best horror movie I've seen all year, but probably the best movie I've seen all year.
Yes. Yeah.
And it takes a vampire story and focuses it through the lens of racial inequality in the Deep South, like deep-rooted racism in like the 1920s, 1930s, and like in the Jim Crow South. And it like the main vampire, like I don't want to spoil too much, but like the main vampire is Irish. And so he kind of plays up on like when he comes to the place to try to get in to infect everybody, he's like, I know what it's like. I'm Irish. Like my people were persecuted. And like there's this whole like layer of like racial prejudice and the trauma that comes with being discriminated against and being held down by people in power and things like that. It's awesome. It's so good. But I totally agree. Like the best horror movies do kind of let you look at things through a different lens, look at trauma in a different lens, through a different lens. And it can be really effective when it's done really well, like it is in Outcast and Sinners. So
everybody should watch The Ritual.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what that is.
Just watch it. It's good. That's all my recommendation, is that it deals with trauma and it's fucking awesome.
I was going to mention that I'm listening to this podcast called Random Horror Generator. No, Random Number Generator Horror Podcast number 9. It's by the Night Vale Presents. So it's
Night Vale, yeah.
Jeffrey Craner. Yeah, it's Jeffrey Craner and Cecil Baldwin talking about horror movies, and it's great because they get into they basically generate a random number and they pick from the category that the number generates, and they talk about these movies, and it's great because you can get ideas of what to watch, and they'll tell you it's like, this is a great movie, this is a terrible movie. How accessible it is for you to get into it. If you like horror, definitely. If you don't like horror, stay away from this one. So it's like I would check it out if you're interested, and you just like kind of go through the different episodes they have, and you can kind of see it's like, oh, you know what, this sounds interesting. I've never seen this movie. Let me hear what they have to say about it. And it's not like they just recently did Bram Stoker's Dracula, which was a masterpiece, a piece of cinema, I think. I love that movie. I
rewatched it. So good.
Oh, it's so good. I haven't rewatched it in a while, but it's definitely not for kids, so I got to put it on late at night. But it's really visually so beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that movie. It's one of his best roles. Gary Oldman was amazing. Yeah, amazing in that.
I watched that. I watched that for the first time a few years ago, and it's visually gorgeous. It's a stunning movie.
Yeah. My friend.
Say that
Sorry,
again.
my friend. I just have to get this in there real quick. My friend describes Keanu Reeves in that movie, and he was also in the same time it came out. A Kevin Branagh movie, and he says, the two separate directors shot themselves in the foot with the same gun.
That's funny. That's good.
I mean, he was up in was it Devil's Advocate too? I mean, he was actually a decent amount of interesting things.
The story is, this was the 4th movie he was in filming back to back. And he was he was just physically and emotionally exhausted. And so his performance, he's not happy with his own performance in that movie. I mean, I've seen him in other things, and he's great. He was in Little Buddha. I thought Little Buddha was amazing. He was great in that. I mean, the role of Neo was custom made for him.
Yeah, and, I'm really glad that kind of Keanu got out of that phase of him being sort of a joke as when you look up the word, when you look up bad actor in the dictionary, you see Keanu's face, that kind of, and he kind of got past that, and I'm really glad because I love him.
Yeah, he's actually with Alex Winters on Broadway right now.
Yeah, waiting for Godot.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to see that. Actually, it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, so a friend of mine went to go see it. I went to high school with him. He's a bit of a cynic. And he was like, well, it wasn't really that good. And I'm like, dude, why did you go see it? Because Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter were in it. What did you? He goes, oh, I didn't like the joke they made a Bill and Ted joke. And he's like, I didn't like the Bill and Ted joke took me out of the play. And I'm going, what? Why did you go see it? If they make a joke, it's an absurdist play. So,
right.
I don't know. It's like,
did you not look up what Waiting for Godot was before you bought the tickets? You just bought it based on the actors alone.
They have
a friend gave him a ticket. So a friend had an extra ticket and he gave it to him.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, dude, I'm going to go see this. It's like when I went to go see The Tempest with Patrick Stewart. I am absolutely going to see it because Patrick Stewart is playing, is playing Prospero, and I'm like, and that's the only reason. And then across the aisle from me, I swear to God, Avery Brooks is sitting in the audience.
Wow.
Not even. I don't.
That's amazing.
I don't have confirmation, but when you see a tall, bald, goatee black man, like that looks exactly like Avery Brooks, I'm like,
if you see Hawk from Spencer for Hire in the audience of a Broadway play, it's probably Avery Brooks.
Probably him, because he's an actor. He loves acting. And
yes,
my friend is elbowing me. He goes, is that he goes, is that Avery Brooks? Is that Avery Brooks? And because we're both huge Star Trek fans. And I'm like, I think it might be. Because
look, man, if anybody, if there are people, if most people tell you they saw a famous black guy in a crowd somewhere, you'd be like, okay, sure you did, but you are a diehard Star Trek fan, and you're like, okay, like, look, I'm sorry, Matt, you didn't see Shaquille O'Neal at the Saddle Creek Bakers.
Right
at the Saddle Creek Baker supermarket in Omaha, Nebraska. It wasn't him, okay? But yeah, if Frank tells me he saw Avery Brooks in the crowd somewhere, I'm like, yeah, I believe that, because Frank knows Avery Brooks.
In a crowd on Broadway watching with Patrick Stewart in the lead character, sure. Maybe. Like, I think last night, I might have seen Walt Simonson in the pizza parlor by me. And I'm like, I'm not kidding.
Maybe.
I can't be sure.
Look,
I know
famous people need to eat too.
Right. I wasn't sure because he was with a woman, and I don't think it was. She didn't look like Louise Simonson. She was an older woman, but I know Louise Simonson has white hair. Her hair is kind of very white.
She does, yeah, kind of silvery.
And I couldn't really see her face. I'm not 100% sure. Like, I looked at him, and I'm like, "Is that Walt Simonson?" And then he kind of looked at me when I looked at him, like he kind of shrugged his shoulder. He shrugged his shoulders at me, and I'm going. He thinks that's why I thought it was Walt Simonson. Like, I think he's like,
because he's like, this nerd recognizes me, but he doesn't know how.
Right, exactly.
Right. He's like, this guy recognizes me, but he's not sure if he's right. Yeah, I totally get it. Yeah, that's funny. All right, guys. Well, we'll wrap it up for today. Thanks for being here. Thanks for the great chat. I'm going to end you with this hilarious 2-sentence horror story courtesy of Reddit. I feel the anesthesia take hold as I lie on the surgical table. Just before I pass out, I hear the doctor say, "Move him to the penis explosion chamber."
Oh, no. Jesus Christ.
That is indeed a 2-sentence horror story, but that is funny. All right, guys, thank you so much. Appreciate you being here to hang with me, and we'll see you next week.
Later.
Okay.